Hey guys, what's going on? This is Hayden Harrington with Momentum Multifamily, and today I want to show you a brand new tool that we just introduced to our website, the Historical Cap Rate Calculator. Now, real quick, I want to show you how to get here. If you're on our homepage at momentummultifamily.com, all you need to do is go to Tools and Resources. Click on the Resources tab. That'll take you here. And as you can see, we got a button right here, the Historical Cap Rate Calculator. Now you can click this, or you can scroll down, and then we've got the Historical Cap Rate Calculator here in our toolkit as well that you can click on. Just a real quick note, all the data that makes up this tool is from the 2010 to 2019 CBRE cap rate surveys. Every year they put out a new survey for all the different tier 1, 2, and 3 markets that they've identified throughout the country. And this tool comprises all the data within those surveys. So it's over 4,200 data points across the last decade. So it's a very comprehensive tool that can really help you understand different markets and understand what to likely expect cap rates to do into the future. So if we scroll down here, we've got rates over time. So this is a look at cap rates at a select point in time. As you can see from our example here, we've got this little timeline. If we want to look, for example, at what were cap rates in 2016, this is what that tool is for. So again, we've got a little note here, cap rates. If you have the year, whatever year you've got selected is the year that you'll be looking at cap rate data for. So again, we've got some instructions for you real quick. Select the year that you want to analyze and then select which markets you're interested in. So if we want to look at 2012, for example, what were cap rates in 2012 or 8 years ago? So being here in Texas, let's look at Austin, and boom, there you go. You can see what cap rates were in the year 2012 for Austin for the different asset classes and whether they were stabilized or value add. So that's what they were in 2012. And then we've also got over here, we've got the average spread between C and A. So this is an interesting statistic to look at as well. So this is the difference between what cap rates were for Class C versus what they were for Class A. So the delta between the lower end and the higher end asset classes in those select markets. So again, we can go through if we want to add maybe another Texas city. Let's look at Dallas. And so you can see the difference in those spreads and the respective cap rates across those different asset classes. And say, for instance, okay, I want to walk forward in time. I want to see what were those cap rates only 5 years ago? How did that spread change? How did the cap rates change across the different asset classes? Where was the most expansion or compression, and so forth? It can help give you a good idea and answer all those questions. Now, if we want to look at the most recent year, we can look at 2019, and again, you can see look at how Austin has changed over time. The compression across the board has been very significant for Austin. You've got much more of a spread here in Dallas still, where you have a little bit higher cap rates in the Class C and B than you do for A. But when we're looking at Austin, it's pretty apparent that across the board, no matter what asset class you're buying, you're paying the same cap rate. So really interesting tool that can help you get a good idea of where cap rates are, where there's potentially more value, and where in certain markets it may be worth your time, worth your while to look at newer assets as opposed to older assets. Because if you're paying the same cap rate across the board, you might as well buy something that's going to have a little bit better tenant, a little less bad debt, a little less deferred maintenance, and not need as much capital improvement to maintain performance. So again, this tool, it's a high-level tool, so of course every deal is deal specific, but it maybe give you a good look at where cap rates should be, have been over time, and what you're likely to expect moving forward too. Now, if you scroll down, if you want to look at one city in particular over time and just get a quick look at how the cap rates for all the different classes have fared over time. Let's say, for instance, okay, now obviously there's been a lot of compression in Austin. I want to see what that looks like over time, actually. And then there you go. You can see over the last 10 years, what those cap rates have looked like over time for Austin and see how much they've compressed. I mean, just look at this stabilized Class C. You go from a 7.75, and every year you're compressing down to a current 4.5% cap rate on a Class C stabilized deal in Austin. So this is a really interesting tool that can help give you a little bit more insights into the performance of markets over time. So it's really interesting. If you continue to scroll down, we've got data comparisons. So we're looking at a single market here, but maybe I want to compare two markets. I want to see, again, let's look at Austin and Dallas. Let's look at Dallas and Austin, the different cap rates over time. Again, we can select which year we want to look at. We're still looking at a single point in time. So if I want to look at what were cap rates like in 2015 and how did they differ for these two different markets. And you can see that Dallas pretty much had Austin beat across the board. You've got a pretty healthy spread here where you had higher cap rates in Dallas than you did in Austin. And then you can continue to walk forward in time. And as Austin compressed, you can see that Dallas didn't compress quite as much as Austin did. And as a result, you've got a wider spread between those two markets in these respective asset classes. So really interesting statistics to look at. You can play around with looking at different cities over time. It's really a pretty interesting tool. And then whatever cities you put here are going to be carried through down here as well. So this is just showing the average delta between the different asset classes. So if I want to see what's the difference between A and B, B and C, and then C and A, this is what that's for. So these are averaged. It takes the average of the range for each of the asset classes and then gives you an average delta between them. So as you can see here, the average delta between A and B for Austin is practically non-existent. So you're paying, what this means is you're essentially paying the same cap rate for whether you're buying an A or B class property in the city of Austin. So really interesting tool. And again, we've got a note down here: the larger the spread, the more potential value there is. Again, this is all deal specific. This is a high level look, so every deal is going to be different. But the tighter the spread, the more the cap rates have compressed across the board. So again, keep that in mind when you're using this tool. So as we scroll down, now we've got the averages over time. So the first section is if I want to look at a specific point in time, but what if I want to look at how has the average changed over time? So if I want to look at, for instance, the last 4 years, 2016 through 2019, what does that look like? Maybe I want to look at the last 10 years like we've got here. So if I want to see what has the average been for these different cities, let's go back to our example of Dallas and Austin. You can see that these rates are the average cap rates over the last 10 years. So now if I want to move forward in time and say, maybe I want to see more recently, what's the average over the last 5 years? You can see those cap rates as well. And again, let's say for instance, okay, I'm buying a deal. I want to know what the average cap rate has been over the last 2 years, more recently. This can give you all that data here as well. And then it can help you determine your exit cap too. You know, nobody really knows where cap rates are going to go, but if you can look at what historically the average has been over 2, 5, or 10 years, or whatever specific range that you're interested in looking at, you can do that with this tool as well. So very helpful whether you're a deal sponsor looking at trying to dial in your underwriting and figure out, is what I'm paying for this property fair? And then what do I expect to be able to sell it for down the road? Whether you're an investor, you want to double check your deal sponsor and make sure that they're not getting overly aggressive on their reversion or entry caps too. That may be helpful. Or maybe you're a lender, or you're an underwriter or a property manager or anything like that, and you just want to be able to help look at data, how markets have performed over time and stuff like that. This is a very helpful tool for you as well. So again, we've got the average delta, or the average spread between C and A that will populate based on the cities that you look at. So you can see what the spread is between the lower and the upper class. And then we have the one-on-one comparison down here as well. So the only difference being this is averages over time, and this is this first section is a specific point in time. So really cool tool to help you get a better understanding of how to look at cap rates, how to value deals, how to assess different markets, and it could help you on your journey to investing in multifamily. So again, hope this helps. This data again comes from straight from CBRE, who sees probably more data than anybody. It's got, again, 4,200 data points that make up this entire tool, so it's a very comprehensive tool. And we'll continue to add the data to it as more surveys come out. So again, I hope this helps. You can find it again at momentummultifamily.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.